Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, crypto degenerates, stock market degenerates, because you guys are now degenerates because you held an asset that went down 20% in one day or something, or 1 week. So, congratulations, you're all crypto gremlins.
Yeah, hello. Back
Welcome,
again.
welcome to another episode
Welcome
of
to the
Cryptomancy.
world is running around with its hair on fire show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I don't know if you've heard that there's been some kind of news lately going around Grand
Oh
Nagus.
yeah, all sorts of stuff like stockpile toilet paper.
Ah, really?
Uh,
I
yeah,
saw a guy actually
oil is
outside.
going to zero. God knows what
I
else.
saw a guy outside my condo with a sign and he had a bell and he was saying that the end was near.
Oh,
So
oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, the one we always see when we go to town. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you guys can tell from our joking, humorist, nonchalant manner of speaking, but yes, we're gonna. This is the Corona episode, and this is probably gonna be 2, 3, 4 episodes. Who knows how long? Because there's so much to talk about this, and we
yeah.
also want to loop that into crypto as well because today we just had like the craziest drop ever. We just went from I think 7,400 down all the way down to 56.
Yeah.
And who knows if that's where it's going to stop. I have no idea. So we really
I've
want to
got
talk
some
about that.
theories.
Yeah.
In terms of the Corona panic, you're probably more up than me because, as you know, I always ignore the mainstream media because
Yeah.
when their lips are moving, they're lying or
Mm-hmm.
trying to get clicks. I just tend to sort of laugh at them no matter what the story is.
Yeah.
While people run around with their hair on fire and their lizard brains fully activated. It's just entertainment, really. Bring popcorn.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
Yep.
Yeah, Corona panic.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start with that. We'll start with the general. We'll talk about the corona for a little bit. So that'll just be a
Mhm.
general overview of that, and then we'll loop that into. We'll talk about Bitcoin first, and then if we have any
Mhm.
time, we'll talk about global markets. We probably won't have time, so then that might be something for next episode. But we'll talk about the corona. So coronavirus. Let's talk about that because I think I get the
Mm.
feeling like with anything that's highly publicized, it's been politicized, and there's also a lot of misinformation, as it turns out, going
Oh, of
around.
course there is. The media's agenda is not to report the news. The media's agenda is eyeballs and clicks. It
Yeah,
always has been,
yeah,
always will be.
yeah.
They're owned by corporations. They pay, whoever sets their narrative, they have to launch it, reinforce it, expand it, keep those people clicking, keep those eyeballs on. So whatever, it's not a case of whether it's factual or not. It's whatever generates the clicks or keeps the eyeballs. So in a panic like this, unlike in previous ages before the internet, you don't get honest reporting. You get anything that basically generates and holds attention, which is what we're seeing here. I mean, look at the toilet paper thing in Australia, for Christ's sake. That is
Yeah,
ridiculous. Fist fights in supermarkets over loo roll. I mean, get a life.
yeah. Those should only be reserved for fat Americans in Walmart during Black Friday sales.
You're not allowed to fight over toilet paper in Australia. You're not fat Americans. You're not permitted.
Your BMI is too low, lads. Your BMI must be
Yeah.
this high to ride this ride.
Yeah, so they've got something now. And yeah, it is a pretty unpleasant little virus.
Mm-hmm.
But like all viruses, it has an airborne transmission vector, which, the virus attaches to water molecules in the air or on people. So you can take steps to mitigate that, like any other virus, like washing your hands, like not shaking hands, like reducing contact, basic things, and
You know,
rely on your immune
like
system,
not
just
being
like
a
anything
disgusting
else.
slob.
Yeah, yeah. There's no need to sort of sit in a cardboard box with a tinfoil hat on and loads of toilet paper and wet wipes and
Yeah,
sanitizer and scream repeatedly. There's absolutely no need. Whilst frantically clicking on your phone, that's just ridiculous. That's the behaviour of an idiot.
right.
But this whole narrative is there now, and it's just ridiculous. Everybody is panicking because they don't think it's a limbic lizard brain reaction, and people wait for the next click.
Yep.
People launching fear porn channels with documents with graphs of corona. Why? What do you possibly hope to achieve with it? Is it going to stop you getting the virus? No. Is it going to help you, recover from the virus? No. Is it going to stop you infecting people or being infected by them? No.
But you know what? It will
But
help.
what's the point?
It gets me that sweet, sweet engagement. Got to get my
Yeah,
retweets.
it gives them the dopamine rush. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think people in
who was
general.
it? Who was it? I mentioned to you. Was it yesterday? Was it Bitlord? Yeah, it was Bitlord, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
hate naming. Wants
About.
to crowdfund his own vaccine.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
get a
That was
vaccine
big.
going. And then I asked him, "Do you actually have some, samples of COVID-19 to culture so you can get a vaccine?" Deafening silence. He doesn't even know how to make one. So why are you doing this? Is it just clicks?
Of
You're an
course.
idiot. Sorry, stick to trading. You're extremely good at that.
Yeah.
But, epidemiology is not your forte, my friend.
Yeah.
Stay where your knowledge is. And
Absolutely.
there's more and more of this garbage, to be honest, really.
Yeah. So unfortunately for you listeners, I know you guys are all like huddled against the fire with your emergency bug out bags, like with your hand sanitizer at the ready in case a dirty guy comes up as you listen to this podcast. But unfortunately, we don't have any doomsaying for you. We don't have any fear porn. We don't have any of that for you because, well,
We don't have
personally,
any comfort blankets or
yeah,
dopamine fixes or, the bottom line is be clean, be careful, and don't be an idiot.
yeah. And honestly,
Quite
I don't
simple.
really see too much of a danger with this. I mean, it's a few. I mean, it's global now, sure.
One
But
thing that
I
hasn't
think I don't like how like the WHO is labeling it now as a pandemic, and it's like
that's ridiculous.
100,000 people have got it, and like half
Yeah.
of them have recovered,
Yeah.
and like probably another 90% of the other half are gonna recover.
Yeah.
And so in the end, okay, people will die, which sucks. Obviously, no one wants to die. Death is bad. Okay, but people die all the time from things, and people die especially from new
Well, the
viruses and new diseases all the
cycle of
time.
life and death. It's not going to change.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's just unavoidable. And so, and the thing is, we talk about this coronavirus, but before coronavirus, it was the
SARS,
SARS. Yeah, it was SARS, and before that,
bird
it was
flu,
H1N1, and then it was the Spanish flu,
Ebola,
Ebola, and then we had the Antonine plague, and then like going way back, like these things happen.
Black Death.
It's a part of life. Yeah, I'm not saying it's another Black Death. that would suck. But
Yeah.
certainly these things are part of life. Viruses do exist, and even if we get some kind of vaccine, which is not going to happen because vaccines don't get synthesized this quickly. But let's say a vaccine gets synthesized by tomorrow. Okay, so we're safe from the coronavirus. Next week, it's going to be some other brand new novel virus, and it's going to be the same story all over again. It's like
Or
you,
narrative of some kind.
yeah, and it's like okay, so every time we have a new virus, it's the end of the world. Like the stock markets really need to tank 25%. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, we're at the point now where it's like global, like national level emergencies for most of these countries, not because of the coronavirus, not because anyone's dying, not even really because of anything to do with the coronavirus, but actually more to do with the reaction to the coronavirus. We've lost more money in the system. The amount of money that we've lost in the stock market and from everyone panic selling, if we had just taken like 5% of the total money that we lost and built new hospitals and intensive care units for everyone so everyone had their space,
Probably be over in 4 weeks.
we
Yeah.
would have lost 5% of our value. Okay, whatever, but it would be done. So that
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, that's really the only thing in the West that I can see as being an issue, and it is an issue. In Italy definitely, and in other places like they're getting overrun, and it's not a system like in China where they were getting overrun, but China did a few different things that were key. First, they built a hospital in like days, which was insane. And I remember how everyone was like laughing at them for doing that at the time, but China knew what was coming. They were very smart about it. And
And they
so,
were laughing at them for shutting off areas and locking people down and not
yeah.
letting people out. Oh, that's terrible. China is horrible. It's oppressive. Yeah, it is. But what they did,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, and now you're in the shit. So
Yeah.
who's laughing now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I think
yeah,
China definitely got the last laugh there. And so, but they definitely had the right response there. And I think if you have going around fear mongering is not going to help. That's not what China was doing. What they were doing instead was taking their resources. They said, okay, we have this virus. We know how to deal with viruses. We'll build a thing. We have an idea of the capacity. We're going to quarantine everyone off. We're going to hand
they
out
had a plan
masks.
and they executed it.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
And now the situation in China, we're getting early reports that everything is for the most part getting back to normal. But you don't know and you don't hear about that because it doesn't get the clicks. But
no,
that's
it
the
doesn't.
story.
Yeah, one thing they haven't done, which I'm quite surprised by in any European countries. I mean, the European pan-European approach is a bloody joke. The EU's regional approach consists of all the health ministers having daily video conferences. Wow, that's going to help that bloody body count, isn't it?
The Skype
Idiots.
calls.
Yeah, Skype calls. Woo, that's original, useful. Yeah, but one thing they haven't done is, and some, there are people saying, oh, older people, are more vulnerable with pre-existing conditions, which is true. The average age of the people who died globally is 81 years old with pre-existing conditions. Yeah, serious ones. One thing the European countries have not done when they're sort of locking places down is they haven't locked down care homes, old age pensioner homes, have they? Now, if you think about it, that if you got one person in there who came in with coronavirus into one of those care homes where everybody is like over the age of 75, they're all sick,
Right.
you'd wipe it out within a week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't they be the first places that should be locked down? But no, everybody just ignores it. It's not. I mean, I'm saying this because my mother's in one right now for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, we're having a break because she's got motor neuron, she's not well. But those are the buildings that you should shut down. The buildings that contain people who are
At risk.
at risk. Yeah,
Right.
things like nurseries for children, old age care homes. The very young, the very old. Wards, acute elderly wards on hospitals, obstetrics and pediatric wards on hospitals. Those are the things that should be locked off. Yeah?
Yeah.
But they're not doing it. It's either blanket bans or nothing at all.
Which is also very
which
costly.
Is idiotic knee-jerk reactions. They're not actually thinking it through. I think the real danger, a lot of the real danger is not just the ineptitude of the response, it's what generates the ineptitude of the responses, which is politicians who, like in every panic, think they have to be seen to be doing something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the right thing, just something.
Right.
That's actually more dangerous than not doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. And that's what they do because humans are stupid, panicky, daft people, daft creatures. That's what they do. Historically, culturally, that's what they've always done.
Mm-hmm.
And then one gets scared, then another gets scared, and then everybody sells, and then, the sky is falling. Everybody's running around with their hair on fire, which is exactly what's happening now.
For sure. And I mean, really, if we talk about at the end of the day, in the final analysis of in the future, when we look back at this, the amount of damage that has been caused by the coronavirus is X amount of thousands of deaths. But besides that, because of all of this panic that's been going around, people are now missing paychecks. And now that people are missing paychecks, what if they have someone that they need to take care of? Well, now they can't afford food. Now they can't afford to pay bills. Now they're out of a house. And this is not just me coming up with a story. This is actually a real situation for many people in many places.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't as fortuitous as you and I have been. They have very difficult situations. They live paycheck to paycheck, and if anything goes wrong, like has gone wrong now, these people are gonna be in for some serious pain, and so I see this as possibly having a much greater impact on the population at large than anything the coronavirus itself could have done.
Yeah. When people are losing their houses and can't buy food because they've been sick and they haven't been able to work, and the body count has settled, they're going to remember who did this. Where were you when I lost my house? Where were you when my relatives died or whatever because of corona and not just the virus, all the associated crap that went with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not going to forget that, same as they didn't forget the bankers in 2008. So I think the politicians must suspect that. Actually, some good might come out of this, Do you know what that good is?
What?
Hopefully the coronavirus will cull lots of elderly political idiots. Better off.
If only it discriminated for politicians.
Yeah, they don't contribute anything.
Yeah.
We'll be well rid of them.
So, and the other thing that I found super interesting about this was, for whatever reason, China seems to be the only country in the world, or Asian countries in general, because Thailand's been
Russia's
doing
doing well.
Yeah,
this is a
lot of the Asian countries have been doing quite well.
Eurasian countries, yeah.
What is going on? These are the only countries in the world that have a plan. Like, what are the what are the emergency units doing when there's no emergency in the West? Well, they should be planning for it, right?
Mm.
So I would expect that there's some kind of like paper in the United States, like CDC or something, that says like in case of virus, do X Y Z. And
Well,
in
there isn't.
Europe, it should be the same, and it's not
I
happening.
was reading about that yesterday. Trump and Obama. There are sort of planning agencies for the CDC, like disease detectives. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
people who research for vaccines, people who plan for emergencies like this in cases of epidemics. Um, and I think Trump, some Obama, but mainly Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I am ambivalent on Trump. I think he's an idiot, but I think most presidents are idiots. It's academic. He cut most of the funding for them a couple of years ago.
Nice.
So whatever planning there is doesn't have the resources to be implemented, and they're probably dusting it off and panicking and running
Yeah, and it's
around like
also deprecated now too. It's
yeah.
changing
And they don't have the
definitions.
resources because the people who made the plan no longer have jobs because they've
Mm-hmm.
been defunded. So how do you implement the plan with using the people who drafted it? They're not in work anymore. You
Well,
cut their funding.
that explains America,
The
but how do you
EU did the
explain
same
the
thing.
West? How
The
do you
EU
explain
did the
Europe?
same thing. Yeah,
Huh?
the EU did exactly the same thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
not to the same extent, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame.
And that's why they're in the shit now. They've got this regional approach with the video conferences and everything else. But I read an article yesterday on RT. Yes, I do read RT because it's got some bias, but it's a lot less than the
Who
West,
doesn't?
I think. They all have. All state broadcasters have. If you read a selection, then you'll get a clearer picture from all sides. But one guy on there, he's an ex-British MP, Damien Wilson. He said this could tear the EU apart because what you've got the EU, the central authority saying, "Oh, daily video conferences, oh, regional approach, oh yeah, send your masks to Brussels so that we can distribute them on a fair basis," and the sovereign governments like in the Eastern Europe are going, "Bollocks to that! We're protecting our own people,
Yeah,
yeah,
as they should.
as they should, as they're paid to do." So they're not listening. They're not listening to the daily video conference, and they're not listening to the bureaucrats and the rest telling them to send their resources. They're initiating export bans for masks and hat sanitizer and hazmat suits. We've got them. We're keeping them for our own people,
Yeah,
and
and
this will.
that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, we're not. The UK is not part of it anymore. So we did the same thing. We're not sending the
Oh,
EU
did they have that
resources
demand
for
as them as
through
well?
them, and they're watching what we're doing, even though what we're not doing isn't great. It's pretty
Yeah.
basic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're not putting things in the pot so the bureaucrats can pontificate and talk and have video conferences. We're just getting on with it. And other
Yeah.
countries are watching that. And Austria has said, no, we're not sending shit. Slovenia and Croatia have said, no, we're not sending shit to you. We're looking after people. And more countries are following suit. This could be something that, and they will remember this.
Yeah.
Same as the people remember where the politicians were. And it could be a factor that gets more people to actually leave, I think, because it will just generate resentment.
Definitely.
It really will, because the
Oh, absolutely.
ineptitude of
Yeah.
the EU is off the scale, same as it
Yeah.
is with the US.
I mean, I suppose I can speak a little bit more on that. Like, being an Italian, it does suck. Like, I have family in Italy now that they're completely quarantined, they can't go out and things like that. And
Mm.
most of the cases in Europe are in Italy. And someone else was mentioning in one of these chat rooms that I frequent about his question was, oh, I wonder if Switzerland and these other places that don't really have the virus are going to bring in Italian patients because their beds are basically empty and Italy's getting basically overrun. And I'm over here going like,
think so.
as
Unlikely.
an Italian, I do not think that is necessarily the best idea because you take from Peter to give to Paul, and then your people are screwed. Like
Yeah.
if we take all the beds and put Italians in them, and then we feel good about ourselves for taking care of the Italians, and then our people get the coronavirus, and then we have no capacity for them.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
as hard as it sounds, I think the policy that you do have to care for your own people first is correct.
Mm.
And, if whatever happens aside from that is whatever happens aside from that. I mean, that's reality. Like, sorry, we can't save everyone. That's not how the world works. That's just the way things go. And so,
Mm.
there definitely should have been better planning with this.
Definitely
But now
should
we're
be.
in it. Now it's a thing. I don't think. I think in a month or so, this definitely will die down. I'm not nearly as alarmist as everyone wants to
Mm.
be or would like to be. I think it's definitely nowhere. Like we were saying
I
before, it's
mean,
it's no Black
people
Death.
doing prep plans on Twitter or people in drafting documents showing depression or world maps of cases. What do you hope to achieve with this?
Yeah.
You're informing people, but you're also scaring people. And there's a kind of a morbid fascination, with data overload of something which is essentially death. Yeah.
Right.
It's just fear porn.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop anybody getting sick. It's not going to stop somebody infecting somebody else. It's not going to affect the conditions on the ground. It's kind of a sort of informational and intellectual masturbation. It doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah.
In fact, it can damage. And it's just I don't think it's we can inform each other. How are you going to stay clean? Take basic precautions. How is a document or a chart or a link to a heat map of infections going to influence you on the ground?
You forgot
It
the Skype
isn't.
call. The Skype calls.
It isn't. It's silly.
Yeah.
Um, but people do what they do. People revert to lizard brain, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's attention seeking. I have no idea what it is, but I don't think it's a very practically useful behaviour. If they want to indulge it, fine, knock yourself out. But I'm not paying any attention to it.
Yeah.
It's an
Definitely.
exercise in futility.
Yeah. So that's pretty much our general stance on coronavirus.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
before we get to the market segment, which we're not going to get to this time because coronavirus took most of the time here, I did want to
Mm.
hit up Bitcoin shortly.
Yes, I've
Um,
got a thought about that. What you
yeah,
have with you've got a combination of whale sort of messing around and dumping. You've got a little bit of plus token, I think, probably in there somewhere. Getting lost in the mad stampede. I think if I was a plus token scammer, it would be a good time to cash in a little bit, considering you'd be hidden in the crowd, as it were, to a degree.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I think a lot of the people think a lot of people still think when they get ambushed by things like this that the Bitcoin market operates in isolation like it did 2 years ago, with fiat. Word to the wise, people, it does not. Because what happened when CME and CBOE launched in 2018, after that was institutions started creating trading desks. Yeah. Now, when they buy Bitcoin through their institutional trading desks, they are using institutional money. So the institution has an exposure to Bitcoin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The institution also has exposure, whether it's a hedge fund or a bank trading desk or something like that. It has exposure to equities, bonds, treasuries, commodities, and the rest. So when there's a call like the Russian Saudi price war on shale, suddenly they're exposed. They've got a liability. Yeah. They have to find the money, they have to find the liquidity from somewhere to cover that liability. And that's when you get the big institutional money sell-offs which create a feedback loop, and other people decide, well, I'm going to cash in, I've got Bitcoin as well, and then it snowballs. And that's what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
There is a linkage between us and the real world markets now. There is a linkage between us and price wars to get rid of shale. If commodity crashes, those desks, other desks that sit next to sit in the same building as those institutional crypto desks that are trading on derivatives platforms or futures or whatever, or physical asset, are told by their bosses, give me some liquidity now, please. Yeah. So that's what they do.
Yeah,
And it creates part of this issue that we have with the big sell off.
yeah,
There is a linkage there. It's not direct. I was on an interview with a Jason Nelson, nice guy, lovely guy, Crypto Insights last night. He recorded it. He should be up soon. And I mentioned this. There is an indirect link there. And in extreme cases like this environment, with a price war and the corona panic, it becomes a direct linkage. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Simply due to scale, which is what we have here. Those are all factors.
Yeah, it's kind of like the opposite of a rising tide lifts all boats thing.
Yeah. It's an ebbing tide, and it's basically stranding everybody.
Yeah. So I had a
Um,
very, very similar theory, actually, now that you mentioned that. So my idea is less looking at it from an institutional perspective, although that's certainly absolutely I would say one of the main drivers of this
There's
movement.
also large holders as well.
Yeah, so I
Same,
think so for people
same in
who are
Genesis.
listening, I'm gonna date this right now. Bitcoin as of right now is trading at $5,880, and it dumped today to 5,600. So
Mm,
by the time you guys hear this cast will be 2 or 3 days old. So you guys know about where we're dating this. So my basic theory is that Bitcoin right now really only has the halving narrative to keep speculators on board and to bring the
yeah.
price up. That was really the main driver of price, a positive price appreciation in the last
Well,
three
it's got another
months.
one now when this pans out, which is BTFD. Bottoms. So
Well, yeah. So my general perspective has changed now that with all of this that's happening. So I think with the Corona black swan that no one was expecting came out of left field, everyone right now in the markets is risk off. Everyone. So that includes people who are speculating. So anyone who is speculating is not going to be wanting to speculate in anything given the current market, which means to those speculators, Bitcoin essentially becomes worthless. It essentially becomes worth $0 US to those speculators because speculators don't thrive in a bear market at all, and that's basically what we're getting now with the stock market. So the only people really who are willing to hold Bitcoin, so there's no speculators. The only people who are willing to hold Bitcoin are already wealthy holders. And if you're wealthy, chances are you're wealthy for a reason. You're probably not going to be injecting large amounts of capital during a bear market into a speculative asset like Bitcoin, because we know it's a
no,
speculative asset. Because it's a bet. You're betting that despite Corona panic and the Dow going down 20 whatever percent, Bitcoin is somehow gonna go positive because the halving it only works in a bull market. And so I think there's no retail demand right now, there's no whale demand, and there's no speculator
mhm,
demand. And
yeah,
so miners are every day producing these coins that no one is going to buy. So this is going to start this death spiral. And so here we've now seen the beginning of it, where we've broken the 7K level and people are just selling. And I think you're right when you mentioned Plus Token. I definitely think those guys are probably
of course
one
they
of the
are. If
main
they're trying
perpetrators
to
of
get
the
off the
sell.
ground,
Yeah,
split the wallets, sell lots of little chunks.
yeah.
Who's gonna know?
And
Yeah,
so I think they started it, and now that it started, this thing is just going to keep going. I am no longer bullish on Bitcoin, even with the halving coming up, unfortunately, because now the halving suddenly, it was a bullish factor or conduit before, but now all of a sudden it becomes bearish. Because think about it, with Bitcoin
mm,
at $6,000, the miner reward is what is it? Is it 25 Bitcoin right now? I think
something like that.
25
Yeah.
Bitcoin, and it's going to get cut in half to 12.5. So 25 Bitcoin times $6,000. $6,000 is almost below the level where it becomes break even to mine a Bitcoin, the power of electricity to mine one. And it's really
Mm,
only break even in places like China where you can afford really, really cheap electricity. So these are the main miners who are supporting the infrastructure. Once we get the halving, those miners are getting paid $3,000 a Bitcoin, essentially.
they're gonna get hammered.
Exactly. So now they're just barely breaking even, and many are getting pushed out of the market with this latest dump. And you put the halving into effect because the price isn't doubling like many were expecting. We're not going to get that same effect. They're almost getting like a quarter of the value in a sense that they were initially
Mm,
expecting. And so these miners are absolutely going to be in the red. They're going to start shutting down, maybe even before this happens, and we're going to start getting this huge death spiral of, the difficulty retarget is 2 weeks, but it could be even longer now because miners are going to slowly start shutting down. I think MMs are definitely going to get squeezed because this was a move that no one was expecting. And I think there's going to be a massive amount of fallout from this that people don't expect. People weeks and months from now will not realize how pivotal and important the 7K level was for Bitcoin. And that
mm.
is going to play out, and it's going to be, I think, super drastic and disastrous. So I've changed
More
my
closer
personal
you get,
outlook to just,
closer you get to the halving,
yeah,
the more pivotal the level gets.
yeah,
Basically, now it's an amplifier
yeah. And
because
so,
it's,
yeah, it's,
it's
it's
reducing, barely break even, bleeding. Then all of a sudden, boom, massive kick in the nuts with
chop the
halving.
knees off, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
boom.
I'm just bearish absolutely on Bitcoin now. And given the market, we'll talk about this next week when we talk about the global markets and our thoughts on those, because I have some pretty interesting thoughts on that one. But I think with everything that's going on right now, I am personally allocating 95% of my portfolio to cash.
Yeah,
And I'm doing a little bit of dip buying of the SPX, but I am not confident that those positions are going to be profitable anytime soon.
forex might be interesting.
Yeah, for you definitely. I think definitely there's a lot of volatility right now. People are making a lot of money with forex.
Mm.
But as far as long-term investment is concerned, I'm not looking at Bitcoin anymore. I'm unfortunately not looking at Ethereum. I closed all of my positions, um, and it's just cash is king for me. And
Yeah, I've got
yeah,
my two. Is it two, three small sort of long-term hodl investment bags? I'll keep those because I believe in the projects. They're not
hmm
that big anyway. But the rest, no, I'm sitting on the sideline.
yeah.
Just wait. Got my little bag of Bitcoin. Put some more cash in when it gets to the bottom, and just wait. I'm actively trading it.
Yep.
Don't think all the people who provide me with information are all all screaming hedge, hedge. Sit this one out. Wait. Um, even they're not even recommending positions on BitMEX or Bybit. You know,
hmm
because the swings are too large. Yeah, it's just whipsawing.
Yeah, it's just way too volatile.
You can get screwed either way. You can say, "Oh, long," and it longs for about a minute, and then boom, it's down again.
Yeah.
Or "Oh, short," and then you get a bounce, and you get screwed the other direction. Everybody's saying that. I know. Just wait, just wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Russian roulette now with a bullet in every chamber by the look of it. So just wait.
So
Keep your
you, as
cards.
our loyal listener, just have to ask yourself one question: do you feel lucky?
Indeed. Yeah.
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 So that'll be it for
Yeah.
this week's episode. There was a lot more to cover, but we will cover it next week when we go over the market.
I'm gonna stick to my solidity classes for now. Wait
Yeah.
till see what happens.
But yeah, so leave a comment, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all the fun stuff. Retweet us. I'm back on Twitter now, so
Oh, can I give a shout out to my interview before we
go
go?
for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a little plug for my friend Jason. Crypto Insights YouTube channel. He's doing a series on people in crypto. What got you in? What do you do? What are your current projects? What are your thoughts about various things? And he was very kind enough to invite me, and we did record an interview last night. It's up on the 23rd, but he's got lots of other good stuff. Very nice guy. It's kind of all about the people in the industry rather than the greed and the projects. It kind of humanizes it. He's got an interesting proposition. Nice channel. Check it out.
Well, there it is, folks. If you enjoy the Grand Nagus and his caramel dulcet tones, you can get some more of him over at that channel.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that'll be it from us. See you guys next week.
Yeah. See you later. Thank you.